Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Second impending doom video of the day. Man, we are cleaning house. Guys, today I want to talk about the news cycle's coverage of the events of the last 24 hours and something that's just not right about it. And I also want to show you that we are not resting on our laurels here. You can see we're building out a new studio, okay? And this is the first part of it. This is the desk. It's going to be the future home of the Prepper News. And I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest. And if you guys have any feedback about that, please leave it in the comment section below. Because for me, doing the videos in the car, it's got a nice raw, authentic feel to it. It feels real for me. It feels like I'm having an intimate conversation with somebody. When I get in a desk and you get the lights, and it ruins the flow of things. And it's kind of like singing in the shower. You know, everybody thinks they're genius when they're singing in the shower, but then they go and they try to do it on stage and it just doesn't work. Maybe there's something to it like that. But anyways, I just wanted you guys to know that we're not pissing around. We're not resting on our laurels. We're making sure that we're working hard behind the scenes to provide you guys with a quality educational experience. And we're expanding the team as well to help us out because we just have so many projects, so many collaborations we want to do. We're trying to remain hopeful in these very dismal times. Which brings me to the main purpose of this video. I'm starting to see a lot of parallels that I seen during the onset of the war with Ukraine back in February, when right up until the moment the invasion happened, and right up until the moment that NATO was telling the Ukrainians that, you know, the Russians are going to invade, for whatever reason. Well, for reasons that we know, because it's the Ukrainian authorities have come out afterwards and said the reasons why they did not warn people and why they did not try to evacuate people sooner. And it was for the purpose of military logistics and continuity of government and the whole 9 yards, the noble lie that we're all accustomed to by now. But I'm seeing a lot of parallels right now in terms of the downplaying of the situation, the events of the last 24 hours, and the lack of public interest. The normalcy bias right now is in full effect. If I was a person who lived in Europe right now, I would be, especially the closer to the Ukrainian border I was, the more I would be doubling and tripling down on my preparedness efforts to the best of my capability. We're at a point where you can absolutely not rely on the news cycle, not because the news are necessarily, and I say necessarily because sometimes they are, purveyors of misinformation, but we live in an era where people are simply burnt out by a lot of this stuff. And now by the time the war has actually gotten here, the real war has started, people are exhausted. And, you know, in some ways I bear some of the responsibility, because we've been warning people, but at the same time, people have becoming desensitized to the whole state of affairs. But you need to stock up before the panic sets in, because history is about to repeat. We're about to have a COVID toilet paper moment around the world. And it's going to start in Europe primarily, but if the war continues, the global economy is going to go into a tailspin, and it's going to start in Europe. There is no way, shape, or form that Europe can sustain any meaningful amount of industry. And never mind the 1% to 2% projected recession that they're saying is going to happen, that the math just doesn't add up. Even if they were able to find supplementary fuels to run the power plants, at what cost? At 10x the cost? How is business ever going to be lucrative at that level and sustainable? It's just not. So you have European countries now talking about conscription. You even have some rumblings of that in North America as well. And you're going to start to hear that more and more about the draft, because you're already hearing stories of the last few months about how Lots of people in the United States are unfit to fight, that only a small fraction of the population is actually qualified to join the army, and they've had to continuously lower their standards. And this is something that we would expect to proceed. But the point that I'm trying to make today is that if you have an opportunity to acquire any sort of tools or resources, and you live in Europe, to prepare yourself for the downgrade in the standard of living and the compromised critical infrastructure as a result of high energy costs and possible actual kinetic war happening in your country, then you need to seize that opportunity right now before the panic sets in. I'm very surprised. I mean, this is incredible, the reaction or the lack thereof. And I'm curious to know if you are living in Europe right now, and I know Europe is obviously a very large continent, not in relation to other continents, but it's very diverse, and there's countries that are close to this and countries far away from it. But I'm wondering what you're seeing. Are you seeing any heightened sense of urgency or alert? Because there should be. And I'm not encouraging people to panic, okay? And I would never, especially when the fight comes to you. That's when you want to be as stoic as possible. That's when you want to be as grounded as possible. And that's when you want to be as level-headed and non-reactive as possible and non-emotional as possible. But right now, my gut is telling me that we're seeing a replay of 2020. We're in kind of like the, early February. And people are thinking it might be something, but it might not. But it's going to be something. It's absolutely evident. You have NATO sending troops to the Kosovo region. You have every country is on full high alert today. But at the same time, there's like this tacit regard that it is not a big deal. There's this just business as usual. Like even the markets today were surprisingly unfazed. They were flat. They were not up, they were not down, they were just flat. So that would have to presume that Wall Street had already priced in a full-on Russian mobilization, and somebody knew this was coming, people with money knew this was coming, or Wall Street is just dumb. And that's a possibility too, that they're just overly fixated on the Fed and the whole Trump, Mar-a-Lago, whatever. I mean, you go on CNN last night, there was nothing about this news. It was a footnote. And then it almost seemed like when it started trending, that's when CNN was like, okay, let's move this over to the, to the main part of the web page that people's eyes are going to see. So to me, it's incredible that never before have we been so close to the brink of total annihilation. Yet you just hear crickets. And that's scary. That's like the calm before the storm. That's very scary for me. When I say scary, I don't mean like, oh, I'm, hiding in a corner type shit. I just mean it's unnerving, and it's eerie. It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone. I'm walking around, and of course I would not like to see a bunch of people acting hysterically, but to even have somebody bring up the fact that there's a major war that has started, like officially started now. And like I say, I think people are burnt out. I think people are desensitized, but we are seeing a replay of February 24th. And I think if I was a conspiracy-minded person, I would say that maybe it's coming from the top down, that you don't want to spook people right now. I definitely think that is happening in a lot of these projections with respect to the EU's economic downturn this year. There's no way there's only going to be a 1% to 2% economic down. Like, no way in hell. Just the cost of the energy alone negates that from happening, even if the war doesn't intensify at all. So I think that that is BS. I think they're just telling people what they want to hear. And I know from some of my connections within the preparedness industry, and that's one of the reasons why I started a preparedness store, was so that I could have not only my ear to the ground to these manufacturers and distributors, because that's the canary in the coal mine. When the government starts scooping stuff up, we hear about it. But also so that I can obviously have a large stockpile of stuff that's constantly being cycled out, and quality stuff. That's our thing, because I absolutely can't stand how a lot of these salesmen and charlatans take people for a ride and sell them crap. So our goal is to get you what you need in order to survive. That's our motto. But this is not a pitch for that. I'm just saying that there are many governments, namely the United States, who are buying it for Europe, who are buying a lot of personal protective equipment right now, radiological protective equipment, nuclear protective equipment, gas masks, hazmat suits, thyroid, potassium iodide tablets, radiation blocking tablets, dosimeters, Geiger counters, dosimeters, things of that nature. So all I'm saying is stock up before the panic. And I'm just wondering if you guys are seeing that. Are you seeing a heightened sense of concern about this? I would expect this is the point in the movie where people start looking at each other in the street, kind of like at the beginning of the pandemic. I distinctly remember this. I was in the grocery store one day, and I was just grabbing a few extra cans of food. And there was this guy who looked at me. He was an Asian fella. Not that that matters, but it just, I remember who he was, right? He just kind of looked at me. He just gave me that look like, oh, I know what you're doing, right? Are you guys seeing that with people yet? Because that's coming. And it will be nice to get the jump on things. Now, we've been driving this point home. We've been beating this horse to death. This horse is beaten to a bloody pulp. But we've been reminding people about the importance of having those self-reliant skills. Getting out there, enjoying life, gardening, just being grateful for what we got while we got it. Having the means to purify water, having the means of self-defense, and everything else that falls under the preparedness umbrella, including, and most importantly, having an ample stockpile of food, if at all possible. Now, if you don't have any of that stuff, we've done budget videos before. We've done videos that show you how to get things on the cheap. And just, I think, having a sense of knowing that this is coming puts you in an advantageous position. Nothing you should be arrogant about. Nothing you should have a sense of pride in that you are special because maybe you're paying a bit more attention to this stuff than other people. A lot of people just don't have the information. I think there's a defense mechanism that comes into play because it's a very daunting thing to have to prepare. But lots of people are looking for that direction. The majority of people are followers, and that's never going to change. That's just the way the world is. And it's not until they are told that it's time to prepare. See, they've been time releasing it. You see that the New York PSA, you see the announcements in Walmart that you should have a bug out bag. They're time releasing it. And I'm not saying this is coming from the top down, but it does appear. If I was a conspiracy guy, I would say that they're trying to trickle charge the preparedness mindset into people so that when they do, so not to incite a panic, but to get people mildly prepared just so the bread lines aren't that long when it actually goes down. That's what I suspect. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm totally nuts. But for a guy who's crazy, he's sure hitting the bullseye lately with his predictions anyways. I hope you guys are excited, as I am, about the prepper news coming soon. This is the desk where we started. We got the desk. We're going to build out the entire studio now, just like our gear review section of the studio. And we got a lot of things planned, but you know, get out there, enjoy nature. You know, summer's almost over, and yeah, just, you know, have a fire. Have a campfire. There's something very primal about sitting around a campfire. It doesn't matter who you're sitting with. You can just kind of see them faintly in the dark, and you can have really good conversations around a fire. It brings something out, because, you know, all of our ancestors did that for thousands and thousands of years. So just go sit around a campfire as soon as possible, and that'll calm you down a bit, I think. Anyways, guys, you let me know what you're seeing out there. Are people giving you the look yet? Probably not if you're in the United States or Canada, because here we're so far removed by two giant oceans. The effects that we will feel are knock-on. They are going to be second, third order effects. It's not going to be, at least unless it goes nuclear, we're not going to see the hot war. But we will definitely be feeling the effects. So we're all in this together. I have to restate that I cannot ship stuff to Europe anymore. The customs agents, the border agents got nothing better to do with their time than prevent people from getting the stuff they need. And it's tragic, because I would love to send tons of stuff to Europe. We just can't. It's just, the prices are way too high, and then they ship it back, and then they nitpick about, oh, you know, you don't have the papers to show where this was made, how it was made, and all this blah, blah, blah. It's like California over there. You can't do anything, right? So if you're in a state where you can do things, enjoy it while it lasts, because I think that window is closing too. And just watch out, because, you know, if you're a young, able-bodied male, you may be getting the call in the next few months here. That's at least what I'm hearing. I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but word on the street is that a lot of countries are considering conscription. So let me know if you're hearing that in your country. Thanks for watching, guys. You stay safe and stay tuned. We got a lot of great content coming up for you. Canadian Prepper out.